My whole family learned how to speak Japanese as their third or fourth language before I was fully bilingual. It's not uncommon for that to happen when you're a third culture kid. At the base level, we have a native tongue, a common language, and a learning language. For my two older sisters, it meant they were fluent in Mandarin, English, and were learning Japanese. My parents were fluent in all of those. Japan had colonized Taiwan for a while, which meant learning the Japanese language and absorbing its cultural values was a major part of my parents' childhood. The first year of middle school, I got to choose my third language and I wanted to learn Japanese so badly, to be like the rest of my family. It was also the year that my school decided to cancel the Japanese course because not enough students signed up. I felt so lost, but it helped me realize two things. 1. Language barriers can make even the closest individuals feel separated. And 2. I was a product of not only my Taiwanese culture, but all the ones that influenced it. To this day, I will walk into any Japan town and feel at home, because there isn't any Taiwan towns anywhere, so the closest thing I have to home is Japan.
My mom has always been the only one in the family that's really good at giving gifts. Almost every year since my sisters and I left for college, she would splurge on a new purse to give to us when we returned home. I've never been the type to appreciate the gifts as much as my sisters did. One year, I brought James back to Taipei and Manila to meet my parents for the first time. Just like my sisters, James loved gifts, and when my mother gave him a beautiful canister of Taiwanese tea, he showered her with gratitude and made tea every morning. So when we got married, she came to the US with her little suitcase packed with an assortment of Taiwanese teas, so that he could enjoy a piece of Taiwan wherever we were in the world.
I have trouble settling down in one place. As the youngest kid, I traveled with my parents constantly to different countries, and since I moved to the US when I was 18, I moved apartments and cities almost every year. I've lived in Boston, New York, Madrid, San Francisco, New Jersey, Manila, and Taipei. The great thing about being well-traveled is that I'm really not afraid of experiencing new things and meeting new people. However, for the past decade, I haven't called any place home. When I do my makeup now, there's this little brass pocket mirror I use. I bought it at El Rastro de Madrid, a flea market open on Sundays. It's funny how I never used this mirror until I returned to the United States. Now it's a reminder of a 19-year-old girl who didn't have enough cash to pay for a ham sandwich because she was so used to just carrying a credit card around, and the cute Spanish guy behind the counter told her, "No te preocupes," which meant, "Don't worry about it," but she couldn't understand what he was saying, so she ran out of the cafe thinking she had committed a crime. Ever since I moved to the US, I've realized a lot of people don't know what a third culture kid is. A third culture kid is someone who is born in one country and raised in another. Therefore, their unique experience forms a third culture. On my first Halloween in Boston, I went trick-or-treating around the neighborhood with my friends, and in one house, an old man was amused to see college students knocking at his door. He proceeded to ask us all where we were from, and my American friend simply stated which state they were from. When it was my turn, I told him I was born in Taiwan and grew up in the Philippines. He seemed to have trouble understanding, so he asked again, "No, where are you from in the US?" And I tried to explain that I was an international student, to no avail. After we went back and forth, I ended up saying that I was from New Jersey, just to appease him, even though I had never been there. It seemed that he was finally satisfied with my answer and let us go. Most people tell me my background is so cool and use words like brave or exotic to describe me. It's interesting to hear their perspective of my life, since my background is quite normal compared to the kids that I grew up with.